"I'm not your babysitter," my mother said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the phone speaker. "Figure it out yourself." Then she hung up. I stood frozen in the hospital hallway, staring at my phone like it had betrayed me too. Around me, monitors beeped softly, cats rolled past, and the smell of antiseptic clung to the air. My 8-year-old daughter, Lily, was 3 floors above me, hooked to and fro after another asthma flare. I was waiting on test results, my hands still trembling. And my mom, my only family neighbor, had just refused to pick Lily up from school because she had a fever and couldn't stop coughing. That was the moment something cracked. My name is Emily Carter, I'm 32 years old, a single mother. And until that call, I still believed, stupidly, that blood meant something. That when things got bad enough, family showed up. I'd spent my whole life making excuses for my mother's coldness. Telling myself she was just tough, just not emotional. But hearing her dismiss my sick child like an inconvenience? That rewrote everything. The school nurse had called me an hour earlier. Lily was pale, wheezing, curled up on the cot. I'd begged my mom to help, just this once. I even reminded her Lily was her granddaughter. She laughed. A short, humorless sound. "You chose this life," she said. "Don't drag me into it." Mini twist number 1. My mother wasn't busy. She later posted photos from a brunch she attended that same morning. I left the hospital against medical advice, heart racing, guilt clawing at my chest. By the time I reached the school, Lily was shivering, her lips tinged blue. The nurse looked at me like she was holding back judgment. I scooped my daughter into my arms, whispering apologies into her hair, promising her I was there, even if no one else was. That night, as Lily slept fitfully beside me, I replayed my mother's words again and again. "I'm not your babysitter." Something else settled in with them. A quiet, dangerous clarity. Because this wasn't the first time she'd abandoned us. It was just the first time she'd made it unmistakably clear. And I realized then, this wasn't about childcare. It was about control. About punishment. About reminding me where she thought I belonged. What I didn't know yet was that her refusal would set off a chain of events she could never undo. And by the time she understood what she'd lost, it would already be far too late. I didn't sleep that night. Lily's breathing was shallow and uneven, each wheeze cutting through the darkness like a warning. I sat upright on the couch, counting her breaths, one hand resting lightly on her back, afraid that if I closed my eyes, even for a second, something terrible would happen. At 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not my mom. Never my mom. It was a text from my younger brother, Ryan. "She says you're overreacting again. Mom told Aunt Claire you're using Lily as an excuse to get attention." I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. There it was, the familiar pattern. Any pain I voiced was reframed as drama. Any boundary I set was labeled disrespect. And now, my child's illness had become another story they twisted to make me the villain. Mini twist, Ryan added another message a few seconds later. "She also said if you can't handle being a mother, maybe Lily should be with someone more stable." My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. That sentence dragged me backward through years I tried to forget. Growing up, my mother ruled with quiet cruelty. Love was conditional. Help came with strings. When I got pregnant at 24 and Lily's father disappeared, my mom made sure I understood I'd failed her. She never said it outright, but she didn't have to. Every sigh, every look of disappointment, every "I warned you" did the job. After Lily was born, the distance grew sharper. She refused to babysit unless it was convenient. She criticized Lily's clothes, her food, even her laugh. And whenever I pushed back, she'd threaten something vague but terrifying. "Don't forget who helped you when things were hard." The truth? She barely had. By morning, Lily's fever spiked again. We were back in the ER by sunrise. A new doctor reviewed her chart, brows knitting together. "She's had multiple untreated flare-ups," he said gently. "She needs consistency. Support." Support. The word felt almost cruel. While Lily slept under observation, I stepped into the hallway and called my boss. I explained everything, my voice cracking despite my best effort. There was a pause on the other end, then something unexpected. "Take the time you need," she said. "And Emily, if you ever need flexibility, tell me. Don't disappear trying to survive alone." Unexpected ally. The first one. As I hung up, a realization hit me with quiet force. I had been begging the wrong people for help. And my mother knew it. She knew I was vulnerable. She knew withholding help hurt me the most. What she didn't know What none of them knew was that I was done begging. And once I stopped asking for scraps, everything began to change. The shift didn't happen all at once. It crept in quietly, the way strength often does, after exhaustion, after humiliation, after you realize there's nothing left to lose. Lily was discharged 2 days later with strict instructions and a new treatment plan. I took unpaid leave, rearranged my life in hours, not weeks. And still, my phone stayed silent. No apology. No check-in. Just a single text from my mother that read, "Hope you figured it out." That was it. Mini twist, that same afternoon, the school district emailed me. Lily's frequent absences had triggered an automatic review. If her attendance didn't stabilize, they'd explore alternative care options. I read the line 3 times, my stomach turning. I knew exactly how my mother would spin this if she found out. And she did. Ryan showed up at my apartment that evening, unannounced. He didn't sit down. Just leaned against the doorframe like he was delivering bad news from a place he didn't belong to anymore. "Mom's worried," he said. "She thinks maybe Lily would be better off staying with her for a while. Just until things settle." I laughed. A short, incredulous sound. "Settle for who?" I asked. "For her convenience." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You're being emotional." There it was again. The oldest weapon in the house. I walked past him and opened the door. "You can tell her no," I said calmly. "And if she keeps pushing, I'll put everything in writing." Mini twist number 2. He looked scared. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I opened my laptop and did something I should have done years ago. I documented everything. Dates. Missed pickups. Texts. Voicemails. The brunch photos. The refusal. The pattern. It wasn't revenge, not yet. It was protection. A week later, my boss called me into a private meeting. I braced myself. Instead, she slid a folder across the table. "We're opening a new remote operations role," she said. "Higher pay. Flexible hours. I thought of you." I couldn't speak. This was the rise, not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. I accepted on the spot. With that salary, I could move closer to Lily's school. Pay for aftercare. Build a buffer no one could hold over my head again. When my mother found out, she didn't congratulate me. She accused me of changing. Of pulling away. Of being ungrateful. I listened quietly. Then I said, "You taught me to survive without help." I just finally listened. She hung up. And for the first time, the silence felt like peace, not punishment. What I didn't realize yet was that my independence wasn't just threatening her control. It was dismantling it. Independence didn't arrive with fireworks. It came with receipts, routines, and a calm my mother mistook for defiance. 3 weeks after I started the new role, I moved Lily and myself into a small townhouse closer to her school and pulmonologist. It wasn't luxurious, but it was ours. Sunlight filled the kitchen in the mornings. Lily's breathing improved. She started smiling again, the real kind, not the tired one she wore when adults disappointed her. That's when my mother escalated. Mini twist, she didn't come for me directly. She went through institutions. First, Child Services left a voicemail requesting a routine wellness check. Then Lily's school counselor emailed about concerns raised by a close family member. The wording was polite. The intent was not. I knew immediately who it was. The caseworker arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Lily was coloring at the table, humming softly, inhaler within reach like we'd practiced. I handed over binders without being asked, medical records, attendance notes, emails, logs. The documentation I'd built late at night while the world slept. The woman skimmed, then slowed. "This is thorough," she said carefully. I smiled. Not out of pride, but relief. After she left, my phone rang. My mother didn't bother pretending this time. "I'm trying to help," she snapped. "You're clearly overwhelmed." "No," I said evenly. "You're trying to punish me for not needing you." She went quiet. That silence, the one she used when she realized she'd miscalculated, told me everything. Mini twist number 2, the next day, Ryan called again. His voice was different. Lower. Nervous. "She didn't think you'd fight back," he admitted. "She thought you'd panic. Come crawling." "I didn't," I said. "No," he agreed. "You didn't." Then he told me something that shifted the ground beneath my feet. My mother had been telling extended family that she was the one raising Lily, that she sacrificed everything while I struggled. Sympathy had become her currency. That night, I sat alone on the back steps after Lily fell asleep, the cool air settling around me. I realized something sharp and steady. This wasn't just about control anymore. It was about narrative. And she was losing it. I didn't confront her. I didn't post. I didn't defend myself publicly. I did something far more dangerous. I let her keep talking while I stayed silent and collected proof. Because if she wanted a story, I was about to let the truth finish it. And when it did, there would be no way for her to rewrite the ending. The silence unnerved her more than any argument ever had. I stopped calling. Stopped correcting rumors. Stopped reacting. And in my mother's world, where attention was oxygen, that was an unforgivable offense. Mini twist, she showed up anyway. It was a Saturday morning. Lily was eating cereal in her pajamas, sunlight warming the table, when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find my mother standing there with a tight smile and a bag of toys Lily didn't recognize. I thought I'd take her for the day, she said, already stepping forward. Give you a break. I didn't move. No, I said simply. Her smile faltered. Don't be dramatic. I'm not, I replied. You didn't call. You didn't ask. And you don't get access without boundaries anymore. That word, boundaries, hit her like an insult. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. You're making a mistake. People are starting to ask questions. I know, I said. I've been answering them. Her eyes flicked, just for a second. Fear. Then anger swallowed it whole. You think you're better than me now, she hissed. I think I'm done letting you hurt my child, I said, steady as stone. She left without another word. No goodbye to Lily. No hug. Just the sound of tires peeling away like a threat. Mini twist number 2. 3 days later, my Aunt Claire called me directly. Not accusatory. Curious. I wanted to hear your side, she said. Because things aren't lining up. That was the crack. I didn't unload everything. I didn't need to. I shared facts. Dates. Screenshots. Medical notes. Calmly. Precisely. By the end of the call, she was quiet. I didn't know, she said finally. None of us did. Word spread slowly after that, not as gossip, but as realization. Invitations stopped including my mother by default. Questions followed her instead of me. The story she'd curated began unraveling thread by thread. Then came the call I hadn't expected. Ryan. I moved out, he said. I can't do this anymore. I closed my eyes, emotion pressing hard behind them. I'm sorry, I said. I never wanted you caught in the middle. He exhaled shakily. You weren't the problem. I see that now. That night, Lily crawled into my lap and rested her head against my chest. Grandma doesn't like me, she said quietly. I held her tighter. That's not true, I told her. But even if it were, it wouldn't change how loved you are. And for the first time, I meant it without doubt. My mother had spent years convincing me love was conditional. Now, her conditions were collapsing. And she felt it. She felt it slipping, and desperation makes people reckless. 2 weeks after Ryan moved out, my mother sent me an email, not a text, not a call. An email. Formal. Measured. The kind people write when they're building a paper trail. She accused me of alienating family, of emotionally manipulating a minor, of creating a hostile environment. She ended it with a line that made my stomach go cold. If this continues, I'll be forced to pursue legal options for my granddaughter's well-being. Mini twist, I didn't panic. Old me would have spiraled. Apologized. Begged. Over-explained. But I forwarded the email directly to the family attorney my boss had quietly recommended weeks earlier, another unexpected ally I hadn't realized I was gathering. He read everything. The binders. The logs. The school reports. The medical documentation. The CPS follow-up letter that had already cleared me without issue. Then he smiled. Just slightly. She has no case, he said. But she's trying to scare you into giving up control. That night, Lily had a school recital. Nothing fancy. Just folding chairs, construction paper decorations, and kids singing slightly off-key. I spotted my mother in the back row, uninvited, watching us like we were something she still owned. Mini twist number 2, she didn't approach me. Instead, she cornered the principal afterward. I watched from across the room as the principal nodded politely, then stiffened. Finally, she gestured toward me. When the principal came over, her expression was calm, but firm. Your mother expressed concerns, she said. I reassured her we've seen nothing but consistent care, involvement, and improvement. She paused. If anything, Lily is thriving. My mother left before the chairs were stacked. The next morning, my attorney sent a single, carefully worded response to her email, declining contact outside of written communication and formally establishing boundaries regarding Lily. Silence followed. Heavy. Absolute. Days passed. Then weeks. Without her interference, life grew, steady. Lily's health stabilized. I settled into my role at work, respected, trusted. Ryan started therapy. Aunt Claire invited us to dinner, just us. And then, quietly, the final shift happened. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for an apology. I wasn't bracing for the next attack. I had outgrown the battlefield. What my mother couldn't understand, was that power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just steps away and leaves the other person screaming into an empty room. She broke the silence on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Not with threats, not with accusations, with vulnerability, or at least her version of it. I don't recognize you anymore, my mother said over the phone, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. You've shut me out. I'm still your mother. I looked out the window at Lily playing in the yard, her laugh light, unafraid. I didn't shut you out, I replied calmly. I stopped letting you hurt us. There was a pause. Then the pivot. Mini twist, she cried. Or pretended to. It was hard to tell anymore. She talked about her loneliness. About how everyone had turned against her. About how Ryan wouldn't answer her calls. How Aunt Claire had stopped inviting her over. She never mentioned Lily's illness. Never apologized for refusing to help. Never said I was wrong. Instead, she said, you owe me grace. That's when I knew this was her last move. I don't owe you access, I said quietly. And I don't owe you silence. She snapped then. The mask dropped. You think people believe you, she spat. They'll get tired of your story. They always do. No, I said. They got tired of yours. I hung up before she could respond. Mini twist number 2. 2 days later, a family group chat I hadn't spoken in for months lit up. Screenshots. Questions. Confusion. Someone had shared my documentation, anonymously, carefully, without commentary. Just facts. I never asked who did it. I didn't need to. The response was swift and quiet. No dramatic confrontations. Just distance. Fewer calls to her. Fewer invitations. Less patience. The kind of consequences that don't trend, but sting the most. The final message came from my mother late that night. You've ruined me. I stared at it for a long time before typing back. No. You did that yourself. Then I blocked her. The world didn't collapse. The sky didn't fall. Lily slept peacefully in the next room, her inhaler untouched for days. My phone stayed blissfully silent. Weeks later, at Lily's follow-up appointment, her doctor smiled. She's doing great, he said. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I walked out of that office lighter than I'd felt in years. Because revenge didn't come as fire or fury. It came as clarity. And the quiet knowledge that she no longer had a place in our lives. Or our future. All that was left now was closure. And it was already waiting. Closure didn't arrive as a conversation. It arrived as a moment I didn't expect to feel so ordinary. 3 months after I blocked my mother, I ran into her at the pharmacy. No warning. No build-up. Just coincidence. She stood at the end of the aisle, thinner somehow, eyes sharp but tired. For a split second, the old reflex stirred, the urge to brace, to explain, to defend. Then Lily squeezed my hand. Mom, she whispered, pointing at a rack of stickers. Can I get one? Yes, I said instantly. Pick whichever you like. When I looked back up, my mother was watching us. Not with anger. With something closer to loss. Mini twist, she didn't approach. She waited. Watched. And for the first time in my life, she looked unsure of her place. As we passed, she said my name. Just once. Quiet. Not demanding. not cruel. I stopped. Not for her, for myself. This is Lily, I said evenly, though she already knew. She's healthy. She's happy. That's all that matters to me now. My mother nodded, swallowing hard. I never meant. I know, I interrupted gently. And I did. She never meant to hurt us. She just never cared enough not to. I hope you're okay, I added. And I meant that too, without guilt, without obligation. Then I walked away. Outside, the sun was warm. Lily skipped ahead, her laughter ringing like proof. In the car, she looked up at me and asked, "Was that Grandma?" "Yes," I said. She thought for a moment. She seemed sad. "Sometimes," I replied, starting the engine, "people are sad because they pushed love away." She nodded, accepting it with the wisdom children have when truth is simple. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat alone and reflected, not on what I'd lost, but on what I'd built. Safety, stability, peace. A life no longer shaped by fear or approval. My mother wanted to remind me I wasn't her responsibility. In doing so, she taught me something far more powerful. I was mine. And so was my daughter. No audience. No applause. Just quiet victory.